Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Limit Breakdown, where we break down the latest in TV, movies, and everything going on in entertainment. I'm your host, Migs.
I'm Sid.
And today we're going to be doing our deep dive into SpiderMan Across the Spiderverse. And our too long didn't watch take on this movie is Four Hearts.
This movie had really good plot development with Gwen and Miles, as well as fantastic animation. And the soundtrack was stellar.
However, it was a unsatisfying cliffhanger endings, as cliffhanger endings tend to be. And if I had to be nitpicky, there was too many random spider people. Yeah. I think it could have benefited from having a few less that were more significant, but there was just every spider ever. But anyway, stay tuned as we deep dive into this movie, and stay tuned with us after the intro. Hi everybody, welcome back as we begin our deep dive into Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So let's kick it off with Sid, who seems very ready to do this. So what do we got for us, Spider Sid?
So I literally just walked out of the movie theater, came here and recorded, so it's still fresh in my mind. I really like this movie.
Yeah.
Right. Let me preface this by saying the previous movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, is probably one of my favorite Marvel / Spider-Man movies. Like I genuinely enjoyed that movie. So I had high hopes, high expectations from this movie, and this movie did not disappoint. Starting right off, the animation, as we mentioned, was fantastic. What I really liked was, obviously, they're trying to show each universe is a little bit different. So each universe that they go to has a different animation style.
Yes.
And I loved it. So Gwen's world was a little bit more watercolory type, right? And it was a little bleeding.
A lot of like neons and pastels.
Yeah. Versus Miles Morales was the focus on the characters was very, animated. But if you notice, the background was always a little bit out of focus and blurry on purpose. And I love that. When they go to the other universes, it's a lot more crisp, right? So when they go to the HQ or Miguel O'Hara's, it's very crisp. The animation is like on point, including the characters. So sometimes the characters are also displayed, even though it's one scene in the background is certain animation. Each character still has their own animation style. Yeah,
and I mean each world was definitely given its own flavor. Like they had the Lego Spider-Man one.
I died.
That was pretty great.
Oh man, the Lego Spider-Man was, oh my god,
that was pretty great. And then they featured one where it had like the original comic book panel of Spider-Man. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, definitely. Another thing that I liked that they did was every time they introduced a new character, they kind of like closed a comic book type and they showed the front cover of that character, that Spider-Man, and kind of showed you what's going to happen next in the story as well. I appreciated that they started the movie off with Gwen's perspective this time.
Yeah.
And kind of gave you, she had a much more significant role in this movie than she did in the last one. And it was really, really awesome that they started it off from her perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing that I really liked was the character. Oh my god, we're gonna end at this part. Another thing that I liked was that they went to I gotta say this right, Mumbatan, which is, I guess, a go off from Manhattan. Mumbatan. With Pravitra Pavakar, which is the Indian Spider-Man.
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I love that sequence.
You have to cosplay him, right?
I know. So obviously representing the Indian.
Yeah.
But I just liked the character and like how he portrayed in the movie. It was so good. Yeah. And he like basically used like a bangle as like a yo-yo.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's so easy being Spider-Man. Yeah. I was like, ooh, that's cool. I really liked that whole sequence. I loved.
Yeah, there was some great. So like in the initial review that we did, I mentioned that there were too many random spider people. All right, because there was like every single version of Spider-Man.
Yeah, when they go to the Spider Society. Yeah.
But I also liked that we did get, like, the ones that we did get a focus on were really, really good. I think a standout for me was Spider-Punk.
Oh yeah, and like I said mentioned earlier, so every time they're in a scene, his animation was always different.
Yes.
Right? He always had like an outline, his guitar had a little outline, the way he spoke. Animation on point. Yeah. If you didn't gather it out already. Yeah. Spider-Punk was I really liked him.
Yeah, Spider-Punk was a standout for me. I love that they brought Peter B. Parker back, and little Mayday Parker was just everything. The little cloth spider baby mask. Like, oh my god, I need a pop figure of Peter B. Parker with the baby. Yes,
it's
I need
like,
it. I need it.
Hangover.
Yeah,
when he has a little baby. Oh my god, same concept.
I just thought about that. I absolutely, Funko, if you're listening here, I need a Funko Pop of Peter B. Parker with little baby Mayday Parker with the spider mask. I need it.
That's awesome. Man, that was. But
yeah, really, so the ones that they did focus on were I thought really cool. There were some little things that I wasn't too crazy. Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider, got a little bit of a focus,
which I love because Ben Reilly is actually one of my favorite.
Same.
Scarlet Spider, I really like.
They kind of made him into a little bit of a joke with the constant 90s emo thing, which, but
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I mean they had so many. I didn't really like how they made Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, a giant douche.
So I was gonna get to him, but okay, we'll jump there. So originally Miguel O'Hara, who's Spider-Man 2099, sorry, he's a little bit on the harder side. You know, he is a little bit rougher rather than the other Spider-Man. But in this one, they definitely made him just like super hardcore. Doesn't care about anybody. He's like, we do the right thing. Doesn't matter which way it is, right? Yeah. Whether the right thing in his mind, at least. But they needed some sort of antagonist. Well,
and they basically he set up the TVA for Spider People.
Yeah,
because that's essentially what they were.
Yeah, I didn't think about it that way. That damn, I gotta broke. But I did like at least they explained his why he is the way he is, right?
Yeah,
I think they tried to explain it earlier, and then they tried to explain it earlier, and then Gwen's like, "Yeah, I don't care," and just walked away earlier when they introduced him, and then finally you understand his backstory, and you're like, "I understand why you're the way you are. I don't condone it, but I understand it." So I understand why he is the way he is. They made him definitely more emotional in a negative way.
Yeah.
Right. So he definitely is like, this has to be done, which makes for a great secondary antagonist.
Yeah. Because
the actual antagonist, well, technically, was the Dot.
Okay, look, the Spot.
Whatever.
Look, as a comic book reader, the fact that they were able to do what they did with the Spot blew my mind, because he is very much like the way that Miles treated him in the beginning of the movie is the way Peter has always treated him. He is literally a walking joke. And like, it's one of those where like he could, like, it's always been a thought in the back of my mind. It's like, man, this dude could be a problem if he wasn't such a dork. And I like the way that they tied it into the first one, where he was the guy that Miles threw the bagel at.
Oh yeah.
So that was pretty cool. But
he threw a bagel at me. You mad at the bagel?
Yeah, but the fact that they turned him into what became basically like baddie of the week into a legit multiversal threat. Like, that was so well done. That was like he definitely rose to that level where it felt like you really did need all of these spider people to handle this situation, because like towards the end of the movie, man, that dude's a problem.
Yeah, especially obviously at the end of the movie when he absorbs all of it, and I think at that point, obviously, I'm assuming because they haven't shown his true powers technically, but even when he was in Mumbatan and he was fighting Miles, Gwen, Spider-Man India, and Spider-Punk, and he was more or less just
handling.
he was holding his own. which shows that he, from the beginning where he was a dork, couldn't even run towards him.
Yeah.
To basically able to take on 4 Spider-Man at one time. Definitely universal, multi-universal threat.
Going a little bit more into the substance of the film, like one of the things that this movie is doing really well that I think the MCU in general has kind of struggled a little bit with is taking this larger multiversal story, but still making it feel personal. And I think that they succeeded greatly in this with Miles and Gwen, like joining them together.
Yeah.
Putting Gwen with basically the Spider-Force and just having that dichotomy between the two of them, that she wanted to tell him what was going on but couldn't, and all of that. It made it feel so much more personal. And then of course when you add in the classic trope of a Spider-Man story of, sacrifice one to save the rest, and then of course Spider-Man is always going to try to save everyone.
Yeah.
And so the fact that Miguel was pushing, no, you know what, you have to let these things happen. You have to, in this case, his dad was about to become captain, and they had, I guess this is another one of those similarities with the Nexus events in the MCU, and they called them canon events here.
Yeah.
But it was certain things that had to happen.
Yep.
And so like Uncle Ben dying was something that had to happen. In Miles's case, it was Uncle Aaron that passed away. And then famously, Captain Stacy, which is Gwen's dad in the original Spider-Man canon, gets killed. And so they're like, a captain gets killed. And so when Miles saved Peter Privateer Pabakar's
Major Singh.
Captain Singh. Yeah, and supposedly that messed up that universe. Yep. Which we never really got a resolution on as to whether or not like that universe completely collapsed or not.
So it was collapsing. I don't think it actually did, because at the end scene, Spider-Man India was present with the rebel group, I guess. So I'm assuming it's in the process of collapsing, but I guess it hasn't, or else that would have been brought up.
Yeah.
So one thing to note, I was going to say this earlier, there were Easter eggs everywhere.
Yes.
Right. So one of the things that I saw was you saw the live action moment of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man when Gwen died.
Yes.
You saw Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man
when Uncle Ben died. Yes.
And you saw the video game Spider-Man when Uncle Ben died.
Yes.
And when they had those three, I was like, ooh, great reference.
Another really cool Easter egg was the
Prowler. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. When he was a Prowler.
Yeah. What is his name?
Donald
Glover. Yes. Yeah. Donald Glover. Yeah.
I was
no. When Donald Glover was captured as the Prowler, because in Spider-Man, what was it? In Spider-Man Homecoming, he didn't play the Prowler, he played Miles Davis before he became not Miles Davis, Aaron Davis, his uncle, before he became the Prowler.
Yep.
And a lot of people, when that movie came out, because he had a throwaway line where he's like, oh, I want to get these weapons out of here too, because I got a nephew that lives here.
Yep. So yeah. So I thought that was a good Easter egg in there. I didn't catch it until a second. I was like,
so
that makes sense.
Here's an interesting thing about the Daniel Glover Easter egg. So he's partially responsible for the creation of Miles Morales.
I think you had told me the story. Remind me again.
So basically, when Daniel Glover was doing the
Donald Glover.
What did I say?
Daniel.
Okay,
Donald Glover.
Sorry. When Donald Glover was doing the show Community, right? There was an episode in which he came out in some Spider-Man pajamas, right? And the whole internet went crazy going like, oh man, Donald Glover should be cast as Spider-Man in the next Spider-Man movie, right? And there was like a whole social media campaign and everything. Well, the creator, the person that was writing Ultimate Spider-Man at the time, Brian Michael Bendis, used that as inspiration to create Miles Morales. And so originally when that was in the works. They were like, oh, you should cast him as Miles Morales whenever they make a movie. But of course, he's too old now. But,
yeah.
But it was kind of cool that kind of had that interconnection in there.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Thank you, Donald Glover.
The more you know.
That's why we're here, to tell you. Yeah, so the great Easter eggs. I do want to go through a few of the stupid Spider people. Because in that chase, when Miles breaks out and Miguel is like, go get Spider-Man, all these Spider-Men did the classic meme.
Oh, yes, that was good.
And I was like, did it again. And they're like, no, the guy coming out of Section 4 or whatever. And it was a Doc Ock, basically Spider-Man. There was a few one that I didn't recognize at all. I think they just ran with it. They're just like, create any Spider-Man you want. I didn't recognize the girl that turned into armor. The car, Peter Parker. Oh, yeah. Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Spider Kitty.
Yeah.
So I've heard of Peter Parker. I've never heard of the Spider Kitty. At least I haven't.
Most of them actually have like legitimate comic book references.
Some of them do. The one with the all gray and all silver, I forgot his name, but he's basically Peter Parker, and I think he's like a billionaire in that one. He has like an iron suit. But there was a lot that I'm like, who, what?
Yeah, no. There was a bunch of like really obscure ones, but most of them actually had comic references.
The one that was hanging was like, "There's no way out." Sorry guys, it's my bad. I don't recognize him from anywhere. No, I think he's a take on Anti-Venom Spider.
Maybe
because he had similar suit, but I don't know if it's the exact one. But might.
There were just every version that you could think of. There was every version that you can think of, and I mean, like I said, I wish we would have had a little bit more time to explore a couple of the more different versions, but. Again, it was really cool that they did include so many different variants. But getting back to the meat and potatoes of the movie, I really enjoyed how they made it still a very personal story, made it another classic Spider-Man story of, in this case, Miles trying to do the right thing despite what everybody else was saying. And I like how they validated a little bit of that because So the thing with Miles was, and I suspected this from the very beginning, right? In the first Into the Spider-Verse movie, when you see the spider coming down to bite Miles, you see the spider glitching. Yeah. Right? Like the other spiders do that are not from that universe. Yeah. So that spider was transported to Miles's universe from another universe. So he was never meant to be bit. It was somebody else that was supposed to be bit in another universe with that spider, which brings us to the big twist at the end. But the big reason why Miguel O'Hara was so bent up on hating Miles was because he was saying he's the original anomaly. Like he's not supposed to be Spider-Man. He was never supposed to be
He was never supposed to be bit. That spider was meant for a different Spider-Man in a different universe. Yep. Yeah, that was a big twist. I was like, wow.
Yeah, so and so that playing into, the whole aspect of can you change a future that's already written? Those kind of like time travel tropes and everything. And I mean, it posed some very interesting questions too. Like, if you know that someone that you love is going to be hurt, even if it's the wrong thing, can you really just let them die? Like, for me, that's such a heavy thing.
So I can give you a few examples of this, right? Number one, in what was the Marvel, the short series that was on Disney Plus, the Marvel, the anime,
What If?
The What If series.
Yes.
Doctor Strange's episode.
Yes.
Right? He had, they called it something, a pivotal point or something.
Nexus point.
Nexus point, right? So same concept. And he was like, no, I got to save my wife or his girlfriend. And he eventually does by becoming Demon Doctor Strange, right?
And destroying his universe in the process.
Yeah. And he destroyed his universe in the process. Right? Now, switch gears to what you were saying. Save one for many. Yeah. The Last of Us. Yeah. Technically, Ellie could have saved everybody, but she had to die. And Joel was like, nah. And now I understand it should have been her decision, but at least, same concept.
Yeah.
And I think throughout nerd culture, there's been many scenarios such as this. But I think in this movie, they played it really well because Miles is very optimistic. He's like, dude, we're Spider-Man.
Yeah.
We can do this.
Yeah.
And the original Spider-Man, Peter is like, not really. Who was supposed to be his mentor?
Yeah.
Which was also funny the whole time. He's like, I'm a good mentor. That's actually pretty funny. So it poses a good question of, can it be done? Should it be done?
Should you try? And I think that's the more important thing. And it's like when Gwen got sent back to her universe, right? And she was supposed to just accept that her dad was going to die. And she did what she'd been afraid to do the whole time, which was basically confront her dad and basically just be like, hey, look, this is what's going on. This is what's been happening. And then he's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to arrest you because I'm not a cop anymore.
Yeah.
And like the universe didn't collapse. It didn't fall apart. And it's like, it kind of showed her that you can change things, you know.
True.
To a certain degree.
Yeah. But I'm wondering, because Miguel specifically said that there's always a point in a Spider-Man's life where somebody dies, right? And there's the whole, right? Everybody. Who did Gwen lost Peter. Never mind. It just hit me.
Yeah, Gwen lost Peter.
Gwen lost Peter. That was her point. Okay.
Yeah, in her storyline, Peter didn't get bit. She got bit.
Peter turned into the lizard.
Peter, you know, being as smart as he was tired of getting picked on and basically made a formula and turned himself into the lizard.
Yep.
And then she collapsed the building on top of him and accidentally killed him.
Yeah. So, okay, never mind. Well, that answers that question. But, yeah good point. So I want to come to the end of the movie. The very last end, the plot twist. Miles sends himself back to his own universe. Turns out it's not his universe. And I noticed something was off when he was in this room. And the room was darker.
Yeah.
And I was like, where's all his stuff? Because remember in the beginning, he's like, oh, I got all this stuff. So I'll mention it later. But, and I'm like, something's not right. And then you see Gwen going into the correct universe, and she's like, this is not right. And then it hits you. As soon as his Uncle Aaron was alive, I was like, something's up, something's off. Because they know, and I was like, wait, if they think this is Miles, that means the other Miles is here. And I'm like, something's not right. And then when he takes him to his little dungeon, wraps him up, and he's like, you don't have to be the Prowler. As soon as that happened, I was like, I already know. Yeah. I already know. I know what's going on.
So that twist was kind of, not the twist of Miles, of the other Miles being the Prowler, but the fact that he was getting sent to the wrong universe was spoiled for me because, so the little web machine, right? When he was taken, because supposedly it takes his DNA and finds out what his source universe is and then sends him back there, right? Yeah. When the machine was scanning Miles, it brought up on the side and it said 42, like the spider, right? Because I'm an ultra nerd. I know that Miles's core universe is 1610, not 42.
Yeah. No. I didn't notice the monitor. Yeah. Had I noticed, I would have been like,
yeah.
Well, it also tells you at the beginning of the movie. So even if you don't know, which is another thing I like, is they told you what universe each of them are from, which I thought was really clever.
Yeah. So I knew as soon as that he was getting sent to the wrong universe. And then his mom's anticlimactic response is just so prototypical of like Hispanic moms. It's like, I'm Spider-Man, and she's just like, who?
He's at the Spider what? Yeah. I loved his mom. I don't know if you've seen Dexter.
Yes.
So she is the lieutenant, the main detective.
Oh, LaGuerta.
Yes. She's LaGuerta.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, I know that voice. And I was like,
oh wow, I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't know that. That's
she did such a good job. I really liked how she played Rio.
Yeah.
And the whole thing with their family back and forth in the Spanish I was dying. It's like, you got a B- in Spanish. Oh man!
I love the little Puerto Rican flag exclamation point that came out. that was pretty great.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But no, so the movie left off in a cliffhanger ending. So Miles is there in that universe, basically chained up. You find out that the Miles in that universe became the Prowler. He was supposed to be the one that was supposed to get bit by the spider that bit Miles.
So it's supposed to be Miles Morales, just in a different universe.
So he was the one that was supposed to get the spider powers, not the other Miles Morales. And so that kind of changed everything. And in that one, instead of Uncle Aaron dying, it was his dad that died.
Yeah.
And so just seeing the differences there, and it left it at quite the cliffhanger. I want to go back and I want to talk a little bit about Spider-Punk. And I loved how, like, you know, he was just kind of like, every little chance he got, he was just kind of like, screw the establishment.
Yeah.
Like,
stick it to the man. Yeah, that was every second. Like, even when he was going to Miguel to see, you know, at the HQ, and he's like picking up random stuff. He's like, all right, they can replace it, doesn't matter. At the end, he's like, yeah, don't call me about I don't like labels.
Yeah.
Dying.
So, random nerd out moment, but so the story of Spider-Punk is really, really awesome. The reason why he takes like a musical emphasis on his take on Spider-Man, in his universe, Norman Osborn becomes president of the United States. Not only that, but he bonds with the Venom symbiote. And then they start replicating it. And so like all of the government and all the police are all basically armed with symbiotes as well. And so because the symbiotes are weak to acoustic sound, that's why Spider-Punk walks around with a guitar everywhere.
That's so clever.
So that's he's one of my favorite Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to, but I didn't know that backstory. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, so hobby. Yeah, he was pretty great. I love how he taught.
You have a Spider-Punk? I don't have a Spider-Punk. I'm very surprised.
Yeah, I am actually surprised that I don't.
Nice. I did like how they had the Fantastic Four bag.
The Fantastic Bagman.
Yeah, that was really cool. I actually like that.
Yeah, that one's a pretty cool Easter egg as well. But yeah, moving on to final thoughts. I hate cliffhanger endings. The only downside that I would give this movie is, but I mean, obviously we knew it was going to be a two-parter, so we knew that there was going to be a cliffhanger ending. And just as the movie gets to that moment where it starts getting really, really good, and then it's just like,
yeah.
So, but I mean, I think it built it up really well. There was a lot of definitely highlights. Spider-Man India was definitely a highlight. Spider-Punk was a highlight. I like what they did with Spider-Gwen. I like Miles's character growth, and even Miguel was a, I mean, he might as well have been the primary antagonist of this. So
yeah, I think he was more of a primary antagonist than the Spot, the Dot, the Smudge, whatever. I think that he became a secondary later. My final thoughts, I agree with you. I think it was a fantastic movie. So most times when movies do trilogies, the second movie is never usually as good if they know they're doing a trilogy, because it's always, first one is great, you get introduced to the characters. The second one usually builds the story, and that the third one will wrap up, right? Anytime, 9 times out of 10 is how they do those trilogies. But this movie did the same thing. However, I think on its own, it's still entertaining. Yeah. And you're like, though it left at a cliffhanger, and there was no clear, not even some sort of a ending. It was just like, nah, here's a straight cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Even then, I genuinely enjoyed the movie.
No, I definitely enjoyed it. Definitely thought it was worth the watch, and I'm even more excited for the next one, because once we're able to watch both of them together, like, it's gonna be fantastic.
One thing that I forgot to mention, because you have so many
Spider-Folk
stuff.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, when Spider-Gwen goes to see Miles, and she's like, I like this little, I think she called it a toy.
Yeah.
Figure. And he's like, it's a collector's edition, and she takes it out of the packaging.
No.
If you're a collector,
yes,
he has some behind there too that are like, you don't take them out.
No,
I kid you not, when she took it out, the entire movie theater goes,
yeah.
Entire movie theater.
Yeah, no, definitely. I felt that. I felt the rip.
As a collector, it
felt the
it
rip.
hits you. Fair. But those are our final thoughts on Spider-Man Across the Universe. Let us know what you thought in the comments below.
And as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, give us feedback. Let us know what you agree with, what you don't agree with. Interact with us. It helps the algorithm. Keep an eye out for more content. And as always, thank you for watching.